By the way, things are a little harder this time around for third parties. Here's something that's going on. This is from Politico. Will the pandemic keep third parties off the 2020 ballot? Social distancing makes it harder to get petition signatures, and for the Libertarians and Green Party, that's an existential crisis. So it may be harder for third parties to be on the ballot this time around because of social distancing, because people can't gather the signatures in person. All right, so the pandemic may have robbed Donald Trump of a growing economy. This is according to the article. It may have trapped Joe Biden in his basement. I'm sure Joe Biden has no problem being there. And I'm sure his campaign has no problems with him being there. Why? Because Joe Biden is incapable of raising his poll numbers. The more Joe Biden talks, the less people like him. Why? Because he says stuff like telling a Latino activist who's concerned for their loved ones to go vote for Trump. He says stuff like telling a climate activist to go pound sand and go vote for Trump, or Bernie's their guy, or whatever else. He can't handle the smallest of criticisms. He goes spastic and goes ape on people, which, who told you you're meant for a career in politics? If you can't handle a question from people, if you can't handle criticisms, and you just lash out at people. He called a guy fat. He can't complete a sentence. He can't do anything without a teleprompter. He needs to have his wife with him at all times, and he might get confused and think it's his sister. And by the way, I have a new theory that the reason she's always next to him is in case anyone needs to say seesaw motor functions at any point. And don't give away any spoilers. I have not started season 3 yet, for anyone who watches Westworld. But here's what's going on. It may do something even worse to the Libertarian Green Party nominees. It might keep them off the ballot. So in 2016, the Libertarian Party was on the general election ballot in all 50 states. This year, it's only in 35 right now. Similarly, the Green Party in 2016 was in 44 states. Right now, it's only in 22. And what's going on is that you need to collect the signatures in person, and you can't do that right now. So several of the elusive ballot lines are in states that in 2016 were either narrowly won or flipped from red to blue. At present, neither the Libertarian Party nor the Green Party has qualified for the ballot in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, blah, 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 blah. So to get on the ballot in the remaining states, they need to collect and submit petition signatures. And in a normal year, they would be on track to do just that. But because of the deadly coronavirus and the social distancing and stay-at-home orders to minimize its spread, after March 6th, petitioning was over in the United States, as Libertarian Party Executive Director Daniel Fishman told the author of this article. So for America's third party, this is nothing less than an existential crisis. Without ballot access, national pollsters won't feel obligated to include Green and Libertarian candidates in their surveys. Voters will be less aware of their nominees and platforms. Journalists will be less likely to pay any attention to them. And the probability diminishes that either the Libertarians or Greens can reach the holy grail of 5% of the popular vote, the point at which they would finally qualify for federal campaign matching funds. And that's really what you need. That's really what you need. You need to get to that 5%. So the solution here is to change the rules amidst the pandemic so that somehow these signatures can be gained, can be accumulated online via some other means than going in person and getting them in person. Right now, that's the rule, that these need to be physical signatures. But we're in unprecedented times. We're in the middle of a pandemic. I get it, why you would need that. And it's interesting, isn't it? It's very interesting that when it comes to our voting systems, we take no precaution whatsoever. I mean, here in California, the voting machines that they use had every red flag. Every study that had been done on them, they displayed every single red flag. Yet they were used anyway. There is no paper trail. There is no documentation. It does not exist. So when it comes to election integrity, paper trail be damned. We don't care. We're not going to have a law that says we have to do paper ballots. There's proposals out there, but no one's taking that seriously. We don't care. But when it comes to a non-corporate party, be it the Libertarians, the Greens, whoever else, when it comes to a non-corporate party getting on the ballot, well, then all of a sudden we need a paper trail for transparency. Then all of a sudden, And I think in both cases, transparency is important. Don't get me wrong. But it's really interesting the selective transparency demands that our system has when it comes to marginalized parties, non-corporate parties trying to buck the two-party duopoly. We need to be really thorough there, and we need a paper trail. But when it comes to just voting in an election, whatever. And if a bunch of exit polls don't match up, oh well, bedelba. If it turns out an app is flipping votes, oh well, bedelba. It's interesting. Very interesting. And in this case, interesting is code for corrupt to all hell. All right, let's see what else is. So let's see if there's anything else in here. Yeah, so that's basically what's going on. So they should change the rules and figure out a way to accommodate this so that the signatures can still be gathered via a different process because of the pandemic we're in. Will that happen? There's a good chance it probably won't. Because who would need to institute this rule? The duopoly. And the Republicans and the Democrats, they like the duopoly they got. They like it. They don't want other parties involved. That's why they make it so hard. That's why these rules are there in the first place. That's why we care more about, having transparency for a third party to get on the ballot than we do about our election integrity. We need a paper trail when it comes to getting on the ballot, but not when it comes to your vote. Interesting, isn't it? And that's why all the rules stifle third parties. It's set up that way. Because the Republicans and the Democrats, they like their little duopoly. Because it pleases the donors. It pleases the people who write them the check. And the Overton window, which is the, acceptable, the common political stances you see amidst the public sphere, it just keeps going further and further to the right. It keeps going further and further to the right. And when you do blue no matter who, you help that right along. You help that right along. I used to say, what's it going to take? Is it going to get to the point where a Democrat looks like Donald Trump and a Republican is an actual Nazi? Guess what, guys? Members of the American Nazi Party, open Nazis, have run in several states, Illinois being one of them. As Republicans, they've run. Open Nazis have run already. And as far as a Republican looking like Donald Trump, as far as a Democrat looking like Donald Trump, Mike Bloomberg's a Democrat. Explain to me how he's different than Donald Trump. Donald Trump has a racist past. So does Mike Bloomberg. He's stop and frisk architect. Big business mogul. So is Mike Bloomberg. Straight up oligarch. So is Mike Bloomberg. Interesting, huh? We're already there. We're already there. So this article doesn't really have a call to action, but if this is of concern to you, I think that, let me see if they have. I think the best thing you can do is to, reach out to the parties themselves, be it the Green or the Libertarians, wherever your leanings are. It's, and see what you can do. I'd imagine that both the Green and Libertarian parties are addressing this and trying to figure out a solution for this, which to me, the obvious solution is, try to find a way to gather these signatures in an alternative measure that doesn't involve, in-person contact, be it, maybe it's going to be something via the mail. Maybe it's going to be something online that, is very secure. I don't know exactly how they go about it, but I feel like there's got to be something to present an alternative so that marginalized parties can get on the ballot. But of course, two-party duopoly doesn't want that to happen. So they'll probably do everything they can to stop that.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today.